want to make me a criminal.
If convicted, Canada's watermelon would probably not even face serious jail time. However, in the United States, it would be another story. California native Renee Bourget is a reefer refugee. She was caught in the American medical marijuana trap. California, where she lived, had legalized medical marijuana. But the federal government often looks at things differently.
I was working with a man with cancer and a man with AIDS and cancer, and they were conducting research on medical marijuana. And they were doing everything within the frame of the law because Proposition 215 had just passed, legalizing marijuana for medical purposes. And the federal government ignored the state law and went in and raided. I was released on a $10,000 bond. And my lawyer called me one evening and suggested that I leave the country. He said, don't tell anyone, you know, basically you have 5 days, get out of the country.
I had a previous conviction of possession of marijuana in Florida, and they used the ability to charge me under the two strikes law out that threatened me with 100 years. And in doing so, they did that, and they tried to force feed me 10 years in prison. They tried to get me to plead guilty by hanging that over my head, the 100 years. I crossed the border in Washington State, through the forest, into British Columbia.
I hitched a ride with a friend, and it took actually 4 hours to get across because my charges came up that this woman came and said, well, what's this about? Why has this girl been waiting for so long? And so they looked through and they saw, oh, she said, oh, what is she charged with? Oh, marijuana. Let her through. And I really felt such a release when I got to Canada.
Every time I feel like I'm going to be returned there, I feel suicidal. I feel so threatened there and trapped there. And I don't ever want to go back. They've brought me to the brink of feeling I'd have to take my own life to avoid the persecution they've threatened me with. Excuse me.
Canada had become an international freedom destination.
No doubt that marijuana will be legalized, and because it's going to be big business and people think with their pocketbooks.
Pot tourists came to get stoned. Gay couples arrived to get married. Reefer refugees came to escape America's harsh marijuana laws. And it was not just the fringe. Now average Americans are looking north.
I'm enchanted. We're not leaving America because we don't like it. We're going to Canada because we seek more freedom than we have in the land of the free.
Freedom Land, Amsterdam, summer of legalization. In an increasingly tense post-9/11 world, could it have all been just a dream?
Strong America must also value the institution of marriage. As a union of a man and a woman, activist judges, however, have begun redefining marriage by court order without regard for the will of the people and their elected representatives.
One man, one woman for marriage!
Need a loving home. Children need a loving home.
We don't want anyone going to hell. We're talking eternal damnation.
Using the Ontario case partly as precedent, across the border in Boston, a court in Massachusetts votes to legalize gay marriage by spring.
Sodom and Gomorrah! Sodom and Gomorrah! Sodom and Gomorrah! Sodom and Gomorrah!
We are here primarily to keep America from becoming like Canada, who tolerates homosexuals and persecutes Christians for preaching against homosexuals. So if we don't stop it now, we will become like Canada one day.
And in Canada, they say it's hate speech to preach from the Bible. From the God-given, inspired word of God, they say they'll give you a fine. But you know what? I'm going to preach. I have free speech. You're free to go and sodomize each other. There's going to be so much more divorce than the land people. What are they going to say when they want to marry my cow?
America might end up having
marriage with animals, God forbid, but it's a possibility because of...
If we start changing the Constitution, what's next? They're going to go and ask for 2 wives and 1 man?
Yeah, and then interpreting everything.
Me, I love that horse. I want to marry that horse.
Betsy was a nice cow, somebody might say.
I mean, come on, what are they going to say now? I pronounce you fag and pooch now? Come on.
It's always been thought that Canada and America were going in the same direction. The two countries have always been very close, sharing many of the same values. After the rise of President George W. Bush, the countries seem to diverge. Gay marriage passes easily and quickly in Ontario. It divides America with both Democrats and Republicans against it. CBS is fined for over $500,000 for showing Janet Jackson's breast during the Super Bowl. It's legal for women to go topless in Ontario, and sometimes they do.
I do this all the time in Toronto.
In America, the war on drugs is entering a new phase.
It's not only the sellers of the drugs themselves that are profiting from the drug trade. It's the drug paraphernalia business.
You know, they come in with SWAT helmets and gear and rifles and loaded weapons, kick in the door, come in there, clear. We got weapons trained on us. They go through the house, take my computers. At one point I told my wife, or she told me, this is just like a movie, because it was.
There is another important difference emerging between Canada and the United States. The U.S. federal government is cracking down on medical marijuana, drug paraphernalia, and pot seed sales. Medical marijuana and drug paraphernalia are legal in Canada.
We are looking at the cannabis superstore.
Although technically prohibited, Canadian seed sales are booming. In America, American politicians could be destroyed by any connection to drugs. Canadian politicians almost seem to brag about it.
I have tried marijuana, I just never exhaled.
But perhaps the biggest rift came when the Canadian government announced that it would not join the United States in the invasion of Iraq.
If military action proceeds without a new resolution of the Security Council, Canada will not participate.
The war in Iraq would create another kind of American escapee to Canada.
As a soldier, I'm not going to give the ultimate sacrifice for causes that can't be justified. And if I was going to fall in combat, I would want the peace of mind of knowing it was for the right reasons and not just a bunch of lies. I was scheduled to deploy to Iraq, and I left the night before my unit flew out. I was based at Fort Hood, Texas, and I had been in email contact with a peace activist that helped me, that we arranged plans to get to Canada.
Growing up, I always thought it'd be a good thing to do, go into the military. And after high school, I figured it'd be a good way to get money to go to college. It wasn't right. I didn't want to deploy. He said, well, since you signed that contract, you know, it's not your choice.
You know, I was afraid that I'd end up dead. Or end up, if not being killed by the enemy, just being, you know, driven crazy and probably end up shooting myself. I had sat in bed one night with a bottle of pills and I was contemplating swallowing it.
Yeah, you can still turn back. All right, how about you decide?
I was quite nervous. I never left the country, so I had no idea what to expect. I've never seen Niagara Falls before, so it was quite an amazing sight. In the U.S., I would be apprehended and turned over to military police, and basically I would be put in jail. We gave them a driver's license, and that was that. It's kind of ironic, actually, because I felt like I was basically a free man at that time. So the United States is supposed to be the land of the free, but when I crossed into Canada, that's what I felt. I was entering the land of the free.
However, the country's marijuana laws would quickly go into reverse. The Supreme Court rules that marijuana is very much illegal.
We got a bombshell dropped on us. You know, the court struck down that, you know, it's back to being illegal, so now we can get criminally charged again.
We're trying not to be too nervous around here. We're going to keep doing what we do, yeah, until we're shut down.
It's legal.
and then it's not legal, and then it's legal, not legal.
I don't even know if it's legal or illegal.
It's legal.
Legal. I don't think it's legal
No,
yet.
not, but on its way to being legal? Pending?
It's illegal, but the cops don't care. They smoke it too.
Legal.
Illegal.
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 Legal for medical purposes. Legal.
It's legal. Yes?
No, it's not legal. It's not legal, but it feels like it is.
They fixed the medical program. So for that period, there was no criminal prohibition because there wasn't really a constitutionally effective medical program. Now there is supposedly an effective medical program, so the law's been resurrected.
What is it? It's too confusing.
I'm sorry, everybody. Please disperse.
That's even worse than smoking pot.
It's Valentine's Day, and in Canada and the United States, extraordinary events unfold. After the mayor announces he will defy state law to do so, in San Francisco, thousands of gay couples arrive to be married at City Hall.
You are in the mayor's balcony. His honor gives you permission to marry in his balcony. By the virtue of the authority vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Kiss each other. I would like to take a picture with you.
We'd like to take a picture with you.
And likewise, men burn their lust one toward another. Men with men, women with women, doing that which is unseemly in the eyes of the Lord. And even though that they did not want to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to the reprobated mind to do those things that to which is against the covenant. And who are you with?
At the same time, a group of American gays and lesbians show up at Toronto City Hall, where they are greeted by thousands.
Can I ask you where you're from?
St. Louis.
St. Louis? Florida?
New Jersey.
Reality is the only place where Americans can be legally married is in Canada. How would you say that you're designing your wedding? What style are you going for?
Traditional. We didn't want to be stereotyped into, I wear the suit, she wears the dress, and, I'm the man, she's the woman. No, we're both women
Who love each other.
And that's just all to it, traditional.
The kind of wedding, mom and dad would be proud of.
Are you ready?
What a historical moment for us on a beautiful, sweet Valentine's Day. We're remembering brothers and sisters from another era who crossed the border in an underground railroad trail. We're here in memory of other brothers and sisters who've crossed the border during the Vietnam era. We're here, like many others who've crossed your border, for the beauty and sweet taste of equality and justice. And thank you for that gift. I have to tell you, the beautiful sight of the maple leaf flag. When we look at that maple leaf, we see equality for all.
In Toronto, people are very proud of our diversity, and part of that is respect for people and respect for their human rights.
We were an orchard in full bloom. Blossoms.
Although I was in a position to legally marry couples, I wasn't allowed to be married myself, even though I was the judge conducting the ceremony for these people. And I'm glad to say that feeling is gone now.
Do you, Julia Ballard, take Deanna Arudi to be your lawful wedded spouse, to love and cherish, honor and respect, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for all the days of your life, till death do you part?
I love you to the depths of the ocean. I love you to the breadth of the earth and beyond the horizon.